watching the Crypto Market Update with your host, Chris Marshall. Your home for the latest crypto news, reviews, and updates that can be found around the block. If this is your first time here, then we would like to thank you for watching. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and share with anyone that you believe needs this type of content in their life. Just a reminder, anything discussed on this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. With that out of the way, let's get on with the show.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's crypto market recap. Not too many crazy exciting things happened this week. Just got a couple of events, but quick word from our sponsor, OTEC, Ocala's Blockchain Crypto and Technology Innovation Council. They meet every Tuesday. That is actually changing apparently. So this month we are meeting every Tuesday. Next month we will be doing a different format. So make certain if you're interested in tech, blockchain, crypto, any of that stuff, and you're in the Ocala, Florida area, go find their Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Ocala Tech Council. Link should be down below. From there, let's move on to what the markets are doing. All right, so basically for Monday, we've been sitting at the same type of market cap area, 1.8 trillion. 24-hour volume is actually slightly lower than the last few times we've been on, sitting at just above $74 billion in volume over the entire market. Gas was super low. This morning I was looking, it was at like 27 GUI, which was pretty cool. I didn't have any transactions to do, so I didn't worry about it, but very interesting. I have not seen this before. Stargate Finance. I love the show Stargate, so I'm going to be checking out what Stargate Finance is. That's not part of the show. Let's take a look at what the top coins are doing in the market. Let's see, most stuff is down for the week. Today, struggling to break even. One major exception being Ripple. They had a great day today, and we are going to cover a little bit of news from them. Other than that, most everything else is either down or just kind of flat overall for the week. There was some good little pops here and there throughout the market where some stuff had fallen and then recovered pretty well, but for the most part, it's been a pretty bland and down week for pretty much the whole market. All right, let's move on to the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Today we are sitting at a 22. Last week, remember, we even saw days where we are up in the 50 range. Pretty interesting, but we're back down in this extreme fear territory, which is, if you are unfamiliar with the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, it can be an indicator. It basically says when a good time to buy and when a good time to sell may be. When we are in extreme fear, that means that it might be a good time to buy, and when it is in extreme greed, that might be a good time to sell. It is just an indicator. So just like the beginning of the show opener says, I'm not a financial advisor. That's not financial advice. Don't buy just because it's at a 22. Just know that overall the entire market is pretty fearful right now. Let's move on to the charts. But first, coffee break. Okay. Let's see what Bitcoin is doing over the last week. If you've been following along with me, you know we've had this pattern that we've been watching for quite a while now. A couple weeks we've been watching this pattern play out. I've been keeping you updated. I'm mainly looking for one major thing now, as we're kind of nearing the bottom of this channel. So if we look on Bitcoin, we are at the bottom of probably the overall channel. This bottom line here and the top line is the actual channel, but this line here is really strong support. We've wicked down and rapidly recovered twice early on before we actually broke out. So you may even look at this as something like is here, which means there is still room to go down. And I would gather that if this red line weren't here, that we would not, we will probably not move back up until after we touch the bottom of this red line. We are pretty close to it right now. Depending on where you want to draw it out, there is room. I would not be shocked if we came down a little bit lower than this here, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we sat along this 40,000 level for another week or so, to the beginning of May maybe, and just kind of, or maybe came up, tested this middle ground area, and then came back and touched around the 40,000 again. I wouldn't be shocked if something like that played out just looking at this Bitcoin chart. One of the big things that I'm looking for, I need to buy a actual version of this so that pop-up goes away, is this here on the 4-hour chart. What I'm kind of waiting for is this yellow line, the 200-day EMA, to cross back above the 200-day moving average. Every time this has happened, we've seen a good move up very rapidly. So as soon as it touches and breaks above, we've seen a good move up, right? So once, and then here again, we broke above it and we saw a good move up. So that's going to be my confirmation that we're actually in a more of an uptrend. So if it doesn't happen, we continue in a extended long trend. That's while we're in this upward channel. We were in this downward channel, we crossed, we still saw a downward thing. So if we stay in this upward channel and this yellow line crosses the orange line, that's one of the major things that I'm looking for to see a rally up, in which case I will be buying in my trading account, which is not very big. And I'll be looking for potentially a 26% gain, somewhere around in there, depending on where we're at and when we cross. But that's what this channel represents. It's about a 26% increase. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum, see if it's following what Bitcoin has done. If you've been following me for the last few weeks, you'll know that basically we've been looking how Ethereum has been following behind what Bitcoin was doing about a month and a half ago. So if we go back over to Bitcoin, when it broke out of its downward channel, the most recent downward channel was back in February, early February. Ethereum finally broke out of its major channel downward just last month, mid-March. And so there's been some very similar price action and movement, but we've been about a month and a half behind. So this is a couple things that we're looking at. If Ethereum is going to follow, let me move these lines back because this is kind of important why these are here. If Ethereum is going to follow what Bitcoin did, but we're about a month and a half behind, I would expect Ethereum to fall back down to the bottom level of this channel here. So that's kind of what this green line indicates. Been trying to plot out my thinking. I've been correct so far. Doesn't mean I'm going to continue to be correct. And as this kind of goes along, there's a better and better chance of it not playing out to what Bitcoin did. It did it in the beginning. In the beginning, we broke out and it played over the exact same time frame. It took us to get up to the top of the channel, and same exact price movement up increase. We capitalized on like what was the actual number here? Somewhere around a 27% increase from when it broke out of its downward channel. We were able to plot that from Bitcoin, what Bitcoin moved and what it did. That's exactly what Ethereum did about a month and a half later. And now the next leg of its action would be a move back down to the bottom of its chart. And right now we're kind of right about here in Ethereum's price movement. So what I would expect is another drop over the next week or two, maybe 3 weeks, before we see a recovery up. Let's see what that looks like on the daily chart. So here's the daily chart. So we're right about here with Ethereum currently. So we'd see a move down before we see another move back up. Now that's pretty interesting because currently we're sitting at this $3,000 level support. And this is why I think we may see a divergence of the pattern of what Bitcoin did compared to what Ethereum is currently doing. Is because we're sitting on two major supports. We're sitting on Ethereum's $3,000 support line and Bitcoin's $40,000 support line. So if Bitcoin doesn't go down, it's going to be very difficult for something to cause Ethereum to go down. Ethereum and all the other coins out there, kind of based off of what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin had enough room in it where it could drop another maybe $1,000, $2,000, something like that, maybe we could see this Ethereum drop back to the bottom of this, but that would put us at maybe around $2,500, $2,500 Ethereum, $2,600 Ethereum. That might be a little out of the realm of possibility right now, unless something major happens like Bitcoin falling. So we'll see. I won't be surprised if we see the $2,600 Ethereum again here in the next week or two. I also won't be surprised if this is the bottom and we recover from here. We hold this $3,000 level for a while before we move back up. So that's a little bit of what is happening in the charts. Let's move on to some of today's stories. First story is about Ripple. All these lovely ads. Ripple had a pretty good win in the courts. It's not a decisive victory. It's not a, hey, this court case is over. Ripple is clearly in the right and the SEC is in the wrong. As much as we would like to see that happen, that is not what we got. But they did get some good news. Let's scroll down here. Brad was pretty excited with it. Basically, what has happened, I want to find the exact part. Judge ruled the SEC cannot edit the contents of the emails purporting to show there were conflicts of interest regarding how the watchdog dealt with XRP and other tokens like Ethereum. And so basically, there's just been all these little things that the SEC keeps trying to do with these emails to prevent anybody from actually reading them, because if you're part of the Ripple army or the XRP army, their whole theory behind why they're trying to do this is because there's some pretty, I guess, not incriminating evidence against the SEC, but evidence against the SEC that says, hey, they did not think XRP was a security at the time of it being released. And now all these years later, they're trying to come back at them because they want all that money. So that's kind of what is going on in this argument. And they're speculating that the lawsuit is almost over. And there's not much left for the SEC to do. So they just need to release the emails. And once they do, that'll signal an end for the case. So we'll see how this plays out, but pretty interesting. Let's move on to something that is going to broaden the ability of crypto. So many ads. All right. Nexo and MasterCard partnered up to make a crypto-backed payment card. And this isn't as crazy as it sounds. Basically, what they're going to allow you to do is however much money you have in your portfolio of crypto on this specific exchange, they're going to give you a credit card that you can use to spend about 80% of what you have backed. The cool thing about it, though, is that if I read this correctly down here on the bottom, there are no restrictions. I'm going to read this exactly. There are no restrictions on how much a customer can spend or withdraw from an open credit line, and interest is only paid on the amount of credit actually used. Interest, this is the interesting part, interest remains at 0% for customers who maintain a loan-to-value ratio of 20% or below. So if I have $10,000 in my in holdings that they're basically allowing me to borrow against. I can borrow up to, I believe it was 80%. So I can spend up to 90% of the fiat value of the crypto asset. So if I have $10,000 in stable coins sitting in this account, that's $10,000 worth, I can spend $9,000 of that, okay? And I'll gain interest on that. But if I spend $2,000 or below of it, I have 0% interest. And up here, they talk about how there's no minimum payments, which is insane. Where's that part at? The card requires no minimum repayments, monthly or in activity fees. So that means if I have below, if I'm reading this correctly and I understand it correctly, if I have $10,000 in my account, I could spend $2,000 and more or less never really have to repay it. It's 0% interest, and there's no monthly payment on that amount. The only payment amounts, from what I gather in this article, is going to be on the interest. And if it's at 0% interest, then what am I paying on? It's pretty interesting. Weird. I'm interested to see how this plays out. If it really is like that, you can be sure I will be getting me one. Moving on. Surprise, surprise, Ethereum's merge is no longer expected in June. I never thought it was going to be in June. I was always thinking it was going to be in the fall anyways, and that's kind of basically when they're talking about. So one of the head developers, it won't be June, but likely in the few months after. In here, this article, they mention September. I'm not certain if that is something that Tim actually said, or if that is just something the article is guessing at. But yeah, there's still a whole lot of the community who don't believe the upgrade to Ethereum 2.0 is even going to take place this year at all still. If you know, it's been multiple years since they started doing this, and they thought it was going to happen back in like 2020. Yeah, we're 2 years later, so as far back as 2019. Yeah, so no surprise there. All right, and last story of the day, Arcane Crypto releases Bitcoin Lightning Network data research. So they put out a report. Arcane Research put out a report earlier. I think it was December. They put a report out, which I found super informative. But they were talking in this one here. They specifically looked at the supply of how much Bitcoin to US dollar is made, and then the other thing that was super interesting in this report was they likened it to email Bitcoin spending, but where is it? The amount of transactions that are happening on the Lightning payment, most of them are micro transactions. So these really small amounts of payments, they make up less than 1% of the actual monetary value that the Lightning payment thing actually facilitates. But this is how much in terms of volume those microtransactions are actually processed. So large volume, but very small dollar amount transactions. Very interesting. Fascinating part of the other 1% of payment volume is that even though it made up a small portion of the total value of the network, those transactions accounted for over half of the total transactions. The transactions are typically micro rewards from services like online gaming and pay users in Satoshis. Satoshis, if you're wondering, are the decimal point of a Bitcoin. So 0.00000, however many zeros, one of a Bitcoin is one Satoshi. So this article, along with a couple of the other events that we've talked about over the last few weeks, is just showing how far and how hard the entire industry is pushing towards getting the payment, the accepted payment of crypto in our economy, how hard they're trying to push for that. So we have last Friday, we talked about Strike CEO and their whole Cash App integration with NCR and all that good stuff. We have places like AMC are allowing you to buy their movie tickets with crypto. All this different stuff is coming out. I'm kind of the train that we are going to see a major step towards mass adoption this year. I think 2022 is kind of the proving grounds for mass adoption. I don't think we'll be at 99% of the people here in the States using crypto in their everyday life, but I think it will be a major turning point towards mass adoption in the crypto space this year. And this is all just going back to that. I mean, here's all the different places that operate within the Lightning Network already where you can accept payments. This doesn't even account for Strike's payment integration that's coming out later this year. So just pretty interesting to read all this stuff, see all the different stuff coming out about it. One other thing I didn't want to pull up a whole other article for is apparently the Axie Infinity hack that happened like 3 weeks ago or so. The FBI apparently found out that was North Korea behind it. So they put out a warning that they are apparently going to be targeting all the major cryptocurrency stuff out there. If it has to do with cryptocurrency, North Korea wants to hack it. So yeah, not too exciting. There's always hackers out there, always people looking for a quick buck. So that is it for today's show. If you found this helpful or informative, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And yeah, I will see you all back here on Monday for a crypto market forecast of the events coming up throughout the next week that may have an effect on your favorite crypto. I've been Chris.